Laurie Oakes broke the news on Channel 9 earlier in the week about what was going on after a leak from, I assume from caucus. I don't know where it came from. Laurie Oakes, good morning.
G'day, Neil.
It looks like a rort, is it?
Yeah, look, I think it's a rort. The political parties sticking taxpayers' money in their own pockets. On top of the millions we already give them to finance their election campaigns, we're now going to finance the running of the parties. Now, this has been done without any advance preparation. No argument's been put up as to why it's necessary, why it's a good idea. Just snuck through sneakily, in the dead of night virtually, secret negotiations between Gary Gray and the party secretaries, the Nats, the Libs and the ALP.
Well, he insists they're not secret, but they were.
Well, they were secret. No one knew about them. And there's also a secret signed agreement, apparently, with each of the national secretaries. We don't know what that says.
Well, he also told me, mind you, that he wasn't sure. Well, he indicated he wasn't sure it was going to get through the Parliament. It's going to walk through the Parliament, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. With all the major parties supporting it. There was a bill in the Senate for reform of election funding to make it more transparent. That would have got through, I think, with the support of the Greens and Independents. But Gary Gray held that up in the Senate while he conducted these secret negotiations because that didn't include all the dosh for the political parties. What this is about, I think, is that the Labor Party, because it's looking in such a hopeless situation in the opinion polls, is not getting any money. People are not rushing in to write cheques for the Labor Party, so it's broke. It needs dough, and well, it's always the taxpayer who's the cash cow.
So what possibly, and this is, I asked Gary Gray several times, what is in this for the taxpayer? Where's the benefit in taking our 60 million? What's the benefit for us?
Well, the argument is that the base for political donations is narrowing down to a few unions and a few wealthy individuals, and that gives them too much power and no transparency. The idea is to try and broaden the funding base, including the taxpayer putting in, so that the parties are not dependent on a sort of narrowing group of people. That's the argument, but they've never made it publicly. So it's never been debated, and I think it's an argument of convenience at the moment.
Well, I guess Gary Gray was making that argument this morning, and I suppose it'll...
A bit late, isn't it?
It is. What about now Senator John Faulkner, who's a very well-respected man, ashamed?
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, he was the Special Minister of State when the Labor won the 2007 election. He put up these political funding reforms. He drafted a bill that went into the Parliament. Now, that never got through, and basically it was his measures that were held up in the Senate while this other deal was negotiated. So, of course, he's appalled. He wanted all negotiations above $1,000 to have to be disclosed. Well, that's now been changed to above $5,000. And John Faulkner doesn't think the taxpayer should be forking out dough to run political parties.
Is there any... I mean, Gary Gray was suggesting this had been leaked, presumably meaning leaked to you, because there was some pushing their own barrows in the caucus. Is there any significant opposition to it, do you think, going to emerge?
No, there's not a lot of opposition to it. There were two speakers against it in caucus. It was passed on the voices, and there were a few other voices raised. But no, there's not much opposition to it because Labor MPs in particular, staring down the barrel of defeat, know they need money to try and save their seats. I know the National Secretary of the Labor Party, George Wright, has been ringing around about it. So no, there's very little opposition to it.
So it's self-interest, public money and secrecy.
That's politics, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. There's no hope of stop. There's nothing we can do. I mean, I had a couple of callers saying, what the hell can we do about it? There's nothing, is there?
No, I don't think so. The opposition parties, the coalition parties, are being very quiet. They're keeping their heads down. They're not targets. They're letting Labor cop the heat. And they'll get the lion's share of the dough, of course, because they're going to, if the polls are right, they're going to have a lot more votes after the next election than Labor. So they get a lot more money. A dollar a vote, the more votes you get, the more dosh goes into the kick. And it's the coalition parties who will be the big winners.
So it's a bit like the opposite of the AFL, isn't it? If you're not performing well in the AFL, you get extra help. Here we're saying that under this system, the party that performs the best gets the more money.
That's right, and that's why the Liberals are very, very happy with it.
So what will they get? Let's have a look. We've got about 12 million voters, have we?
No, there are 14.4 million voters,
yeah.
But they all vote twice. They vote in the reps and the Senate, so the votes count twice for the purposes of this. Now, the original document was interpreted as meaning this money would be $1 a vote every year, but Mr. Dreyfus, the minister, told caucus yesterday, or caucus committee, that was a mistake. It was actually $1 a vote for 3 years. So that'll amount to about $10 million to be carved up by the parties every year. And that's not to be sneezed at. It's fairly big dough, isn't it?
It is. I don't know. Shake your head.